like to call a special meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5:02. Please let the minutes show that there's 3 board members present, and Serena should be online. She is?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So a total of 4. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag, the state of New Mexico. This is a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Item number 2 is to establish the process for selecting the new board member to fill the current board vacancy. The process include and not limited to review of the applications, possible interviews of the applications, and possible background checks if we need to. So that's kind of the in short a process. In the past, we've had one board member that I can remember that we had to appoint, and what we did there was we did interviews also, but we also did a kind of a question thing, and limited. At that time we limited it to no more than one question per board member, and we were 5 board members. So that's what we did before, and then from there we went on to the interviews of them and the selection of the board member. Any comments? Well, but at that time, I'm saying at the time that we selected that one, there was 5 of us. I mean 4, I'm sorry. Yes, 4. So, any other comment?
Can we discuss ideas now, or?
Yeah.
I like the idea of each board member doing one question. I'd like to see us repeat that. I would like for us also to establish a criteria for nominations. And if we follow the nominations as a motion and a second, I'm fine with that. I don't know if there's a different protocol.
And no, because once we go through the applications and the process, then we go through nominating. I nominate so and so, and we go from there. If it carries or the motion fails or whatever. As of right now, I don't know how many applicants we've had. We won't find that out until Monday, which is the end of when they can submit. So that's that. But yes, then the process will go to a nominating and saying who you can say I nominate so and so, and then there's a second, and just like a regular motion.
Okay. Serena has a.
I have a question. At what point in this process do we determine the eligibility of the candidates, like through the county clerk, to make sure they're a registered voter in the district?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What was that?
She asked, at what point do we determine the eligibility? And I would assume, and I could be completely wrong, that those are screened. The only criteria is that they have to be 18 or older and they have to be a registered voter in the district. And I would think that those could be screened before we get to them, and notification to those that don't fit the criteria be given before the process gets into evaluation.
Before we start even asking them questions?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's something that the administration is going to do?
I'm looking at Joyce to see if that's...
So I have two thoughts. The first one, Mr. Guadiana, you brought up, and Mr. Sepulveda, about each board member asking one question. So I would ask that those questions be emailed to Irma so that we can compile them on one page, because we don't want somebody to have the same question, right? So we would want,
Exactly.
so
Yes.
that way we word them, put them all on one sheet so that the question is asked exactly the same each time, and that way we make sure that it's not the same question repeated. That's just an option if that's what you all want to do. The second thing that we could do is, as far as determining whether they're registered voters, after the applications are due at noon, that would be something that maybe Irma could check or verify with the county clerk's office. And I can have her give them a call this week to let them know that that's coming up on Monday, because we would have to do that before the board meeting if we had stated that we were going to be doing this process during the board meeting on Monday.
Yes, because the time that they have to submit their letter would be at noon
Noon, yes.
on Monday, and then from there, we could go with that process that they are a registered voter, and that those people that are qualified, that meet that criteria of being a registered voter, 18 years of old and old, well, be eligible to vote, I should say. And then we can, when we meet on Monday, then we can go through the applicants, and we can screen them then and go from there.
And point of clarification, you said be eligible to vote, but it is a registered voter.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mr. President, so at that time, we'll only look at people that have applied, right? We won't take anybody from the audience or anybody that has not expressed their interest in a letter, right?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing that I had was, I agree with you 100%, and I had written down some stuff because I was wondering how we're going to do if we didn't have any questions or any ideas tonight, so that all of us wouldn't come up with not the same question, but wouldn't run over each other with a question. And this is what I wrote down. It's not anything that needs to be set in stone or anything, but I had that the president announces that it's what it's for a forum to get a board member, and introduces the candidates, thanks them for applying them, and at the same time asks them to tell us something about themselves, which is question number one. The next board member could say, why do you think you want to be a board member? Okay. The next question could be experience with budgets, audits, or other board business. Another question could be ask if they're willing to go to training and explain the importance of trainings and where we have to travel for trainings and stuff. And that being said, that everybody asked a question, then it would go back to the president and say, do you have any questions for us? And then that would be it. And like I said, that's just something that I thought of. It's nothing that's set in stone or anything. I don't know what you guys think about something like that.
Okay. Other comment?
I like Joyce's suggestion of us all emailing Irma one question. That way we can all ask a question that, is close to our heart, something we want to know. And then she can make sure that there's no overlapping questions.
And if there is overlapping questions, she can contact the two people, and then they can figure out a different question.
And keeping in mind that we have to ask each candidate the same questions. We can't change the questions from one to another.
Yes, and that's why I think that by going to Irma, she can screen the questions, and there again, if one of us has the same question as somebody else, then they can contact us, and we come up with another question.
Maybe it's something that we can consider to have those as boilerplate questions and then add our individual ones up to that. Because I agree with the questions that you brought forward. That's not one that I would, I don't know if that's one that I would be very critical of in terms of wanting myself. But those are good questions to ask, and I think it might be something that we could still have all of them respond to that in addition to the single questions that we have.
Yeah, and they might answer those when we ask, like there. I think that should be a question that we set forth on that. Why do you want to be a board member, or what can you bring to the board, or something like that? Be a question that they can answer while they're telling us about themselves, and then we can have our own question to add as we go along.
Okay, so can we get those questions to Irma by,
I say we
get
need
the
to get them
packets
to
out
Irma
to-
no later than
tomorrow afternoon or Thursday
tomorrow
morning?
afternoon or Thursday morning.
Because then we would want the questions to be in your packets, and we'll get the packets out to you hopefully Thursday early. If not, I mean, we do work Friday, so at the latest Friday, but we like to try to get them out on Thursday so that we could get that typed up and compiled and run copies, so that when each person comes up and you interview them, you'll have enough copies that you could just write the comments on each form.
Okay. Is that okay?
So
Can get them
by-
to her by Thursday morning?
I would think that would, because we don't want those questions to go out other than the ones that have already been mentioned, that we would receive those right before the meeting, and the deadline would be on Monday, say like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
The only thing is, if we want them typed up on one sheet, we got to give Irma time to do that. I'm not sure that I would do it that late. I would maybe go by the same noon deadline on Monday if you want to wait until Monday, because we're not going to release those questions. They would be, we could put them in your board packet, but they don't go out released to the public.
No, they don't, but the opportunity for them to be shared exists, and it's something that
True.
we can avoid by.
So, okay, so here's the idea. If we could still get them to her, I won't put them in your packets. I will bring them.
That's probably better.
Okay.
And
Okay.
but the deadline be on Monday in the afternoon, after the application, because if it's, the idea is to prevent any potential for it to be distributed before.
So I would prefer Monday by noon to again give Irma time to put those together.
I'm okay with that.
So questions due to Irma Monday at noon. And then I will make copies and just bring them. I will not put them in the packets.
Can I ask a clarifying question? What would be the intent of not releasing those questions ahead of time?
The intent would be that way any candidate, how things go, sometimes the questions are out there that we're going to ask, and that gives them a time to prepare to answer. I think a lot of it has to be spontaneous when we're here and see how the candidates answer a question like that.
The other part is that it can be one way or the other, but if we're going to have the questions out to board members and through some conversation that gets out to any of the applicants, then that gives that person an advantage over others. And so trying to restrict that would be the intent of letting it out later. And conversely, we could put out all the questions, make them public information, and that way each one has the same opportunity to prepare. And either one is fair, but
whatever decision y'all make, as long as each candidate has the exact same opportunity and no one candidate has an advantage over somebody else by being given any information that other candidates don't have.
I believe that it's best, like what Anna said, get them to you by noon on Monday, and that way, when we come to the board meeting, then we get the questions, and then there we can ask the questions, and the questions would even be new to us also, other than the one that you put in.
That's good.
Okay.
So is that agreed on that piece of it? Questions
Why
to
don't we take
Irma
a
by
vote?
Monday at noon. She'll compile them, she'll make the copies, I'll bring them in packets to each of you Monday for the meeting.
It's fine with me.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to do that.
I would move that we submit the questions by noon on Monday and have them brought to the board unseen before the meeting.
You heard the motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second by Mr. Cordova. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so on another question then, we need Irma to contact all the applicants Monday, or start letting them know now that we want them at the board meeting present on Monday for an interview?
Can they be virtual?
They
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah, I would think they'd be able to be virtual, certainly if they have concerns over COVID risks. And
I mean, we do have plenty of, well, yeah, I mean, we do have plenty of space here that they would be socially distanced, but they would need to come up and share the same microphone. Ms. Davis, if you can help me remember, we'll bring wipes to keep cleaning off the microphone.
are you suggesting they not be allowed to participate virtually?
I'm just saying either way. That's up to you all to make that decision.
Okay. I would support that they would be able to do this virtually. Or in person, I should say.
Okay. Any other thing?
Should we make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we allow the applicants to participate in person or virtually.
Okay, you heard the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second by Mr. Cordova. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
I have just a quick question. With the increased risk of all the cyber attacks lately, is there a possibility of getting a list of who's going to participate virtually, maybe by Friday, so we could create them a district account so I can eliminate any threats coming into our system?
I cannot give them to you, if that's what the board decides, I cannot give them to you until Monday at noon because applications are not due until Monday at noon.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's just a consideration for you guys to start thinking about.
So Victor, would they, even participating on YouTube, it's not a two-way, right? YouTube is a one-way? It's just a one-way. So it'd have to be Google.
So are we restricting people from participating on Google as it is? Okay, but we're not restricting, because I've heard from other people different things that, You mean, clarify that a little bit. What, if a person can log on to the meeting, can they raise their hand and comment and everything, and that starts from the very beginning of the meeting all the way through? Okay.
On every agenda is the Google Meet link and the YouTube link.
No, that's fine, and I'm off the agenda, so that's a discussion for another time. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Murillo.
Ms. Murillo?
Oh, I just had a comment. I guess it's off topic as well. At one time when I did try to join Google Meet, I wasn't allowed on until the public comment time. So I had to tune in through YouTube on a second device.
Okay. Any other comments?
So we need to probably make a decision on if we're going to allow them to sign in, or if we're going to create, how we're going to do that. Do we need to create them an account, or how are we going to do that to protect our system?
From what was discussed, it doesn't seem like there shouldn't be a problem with them getting on, because it's listed on the website. If they log on to that, they should be able to get on and participate.
Yeah, they can. It's just, we'll just play it by ear. We'll just go with it. But like I said, there's a lot of changes that have been made for security purposes. And a lot of the threat is coming from, like, a lot of you guys are searching the flags in our system. So it's, we don't know what you guys have. We don't know what's coming in. We don't know some of the, using your account as the cyber part of it is very, very safe.
Mr. Arambula, to get into Google Meet, do they log in with their email?
You have to log in with an email account, and it could be anything.
Well,
I can't hear what Mr. Arambula is saying.
okay, it should be. We'll put it on the agenda maybe for the next meeting, but there should not be anybody that applies for this position not allowed access. And if that happens, then that devoids the whole process.
No, it should be fine. I'm just saying that there's an increased vulnerability right now.
Yeah, but any kind of changes need to be approved by the board. It can't be done unilaterally. Okay.
Okay. You had something, Joyce?
So we will just make sure that we give them the Google link when Irma makes contact with them to be on the meeting, that we give them the Google link so that they can be able to participate.
Okay.
I was just going to say, we probably don't want to put a lot of items on the agenda. Maybe we can bring this up at the next board meeting, because I'm sure that this process is going to take a considerable amount of time.
Okay. Mr. Esqueda, you had a question. Just remember that at this, according to the agenda, there's no public input.
No, I understand, Mr. Sepulveda, but I guess it's really not, I don't know, a question, or maybe it is, or it's, I guess you can consider it a request. I, along with Mrs. Murillo, was unable to hear what Mr. Arambula was saying, and, for those of us that are listening in, either via Google Meets or the YouTube Live, is there any way that that information can be restated, or so that those of us listening in can hear what was stated?
Yes, Mr. Esqueda. So what was mentioned was just due to the increased vulnerabilities out there right now with all these cyber attacks, we were just curious if there's a possibility, if there's a list available prior to the thing so we can make sure that they have a direct account to just log in for the meeting to decrease the vulnerability of us getting attacked by an outside source. Because on everyone's personal email, we just don't know what you have, what kind of security measures you have in place, and with a simple email can take us all down.
So to the board meeting, I will bring a packet for each board member with all the applications that we receive and the resumes and then the questions. Okay.
Okay. And then on the that of adjournment, there on the agenda, there's some things there that for the meeting when we select the board members, that an individual attending the board meeting may ask to speak on any item that appears on the approved agenda after he or she is recognized by the president of the board and introduces him or herself. The president may set limits as to the length and subject of any presentation or commentary. Personal complaints about individuals shall not be accepted unless he or they are submitted in writing and signed. The Cobre School District will provide an interpreter for the hearing impaired upon request. And that's kind of what we just did with the mic. We'll have to make sure that we get a mic to somebody that is speaking. Requests should be submitted to the superintendent's office 3 days prior to the meeting. So that is something that we need to carry on as we go along. So if there's not any other thing,
I do.
go ahead.
Under the action items, it also says possible background check. So is that going to be a decision that is made by the board as well?
Yes.
So what venues do we have that we could make a background check within?
Ms. Davis?
When the candidate is selected, they can come to my office and I would walk them through on where they can go get their fingerprinting done. And then right away that comes to me and then I can look at it to make sure they're clear. And then I can let you guys know if they're cleared.
That would be for the person that's elected, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not for all applicants.
No, yes, because there is a cost
Yeah.
for the fingerprinting of $44, so we don't want to have them incur that cost if they're not selected. So again, as soon as they're selected, they can come by my office and I can give them the information and we can get them fingerprinted. It's pretty quick as long as they make an appointment and get it through, but I can get it by the end of the day if they fingerprint in the morning.
The only thing is, it's up to, because we do our background checks at the police department for Silver City, so sometimes we have to wait on them when they have an appointment for us to get in. We are looking at purchasing one for our district, so we don't have to keep going that route, but that's down the road.
So on that point, usually they have like 2 days a week that they take that.
They don't anymore, it's by appointment.
Cool.
It's been by appointment since the beginning of the.
The other part is that where are we within the 45 days so that that can be done? And I guess our appointment would not be made on the board during the board meeting. It would be made contingent on the passing of the background check. Then,
Mr. Guardian, I know that I've had processing a lot of staff through our district, and the police department is really flexible, and they usually give you a date right away. And if you go in that day, like I said, if you end up with an appointment, usually by the end of that day, I usually have the results and are able to clear a person. So it's not doesn't take weeks. So as soon as they are someone that's going to be appointed, if they come to my office right away, we can get them registered and we can call. And sometimes when I call down there or I have them go down there, if they say this is urgent or this is for Cobre schools and I'm on a time frame, they sometimes get them in pretty quick.
Along those lines, on the remote chance that the person selected doesn't pass the background check, we won't have time to go through a process before the 45 days to select an alternate. And along those lines, maybe we should rank applicants so that if one does pass, we can go to number 2 and then maybe number 3 at the most, but I doubt we need anything. And I know that's remote, but at least because of the time frame, it's not a bad idea to have, in my opinion.
On the time frame, I know we're looking at 45 days. So if that started on January 1st, if I calculated it correctly, the 45 days is February 14th.
We have plenty of time after that.
So, based on Mr. Guadiana's comments, do we want to do a rank order?
I think that was the last one on there, wasn't it?
No, that,
So do we need to make a motion, yes, on the background check, and then make a
Yes,
decision? on it?
entertain a motion for doing a background check.
George should raise his hand.
So move on the motion.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second,
Second, is this for the ranking or both?
This is for the background check.
for the background check.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Cordova made the motion, Guadiana seconded. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we would do the discussion on the rank order.
Okay. Do we entertain a motion for ranking of the candidates?
I make a motion that we select the selection of the candidates for being a prospective board member be done by ranking. First one will have the opportunity to pass the background check, and if it does, then there's no further consideration. If the person doesn't pass, then we move to the subsequent, the next higher rank, and until we find one that does pass the background check.
You heard the
I have a
motion, do we hear a
question.
second?
Serena has a question.
Karina had a question.
When we choose the candidate, do all 4 of us have to agree on the person or just the majority?
It would be very helpful if all 4 of us agree, but it is the majority.
Okay.
And in response to that too, it could be that nobody gets selected. If we have 2 and 2 all the way across, nobody gets selected, then the state will make that decision for us.
Yes.
George has a question still.
Did you have a question, George?
Yeah, yes, again, thank you, Mr. Sepulveda. I guess my question is, and maybe it's a point of clarification in regards to what Mrs. Varela stated earlier. So in regards to the upcoming January 24th board meeting, if Mrs. Varela could clarify, so at that 24th board meeting, is the majority of the agenda then going to be focused on the discussion and selection and recommendation of a 5th board member, or is that going to be put off for a decision at a future board meeting?
Mr. President, that's going to be an open meeting, right? It's not going to be in closed session, so the public or whoever's listening should know what the discussion is and what the votes are.
Yes.
And that would include the interviews as well. So
Yes.
No, and I understand that, and I appreciate the comment. It just appears that with the process that you're setting up, if you're not going to have, or you as board members aren't going to have an opportunity, well, let me step back. I guess, are you as board members going to have an opportunity to review the letters of interest and resumes prior to your 5 p.m. start time, or are you guys going to be seeing those documents cold at 5 p.m.?
Those documents it'll be like a regular board meeting, which is our scheduled board meeting on the 24th. And there is where we're also going to look at the applications and maybe ask. That's why it's kind of limited to just one question apiece, so we can move along on those items, and then whatever else we need to discuss for the board meeting.
No, I understand that, but again, so in essence, if I understand you correctly, then it's not until 5 p.m. on Monday, then that the 4 of you will have that'll be your first opportunity to review the letters of interest. And it appears to me that if you do have a significant amount of applicants, having to read those letters and then go through the interview process is going to be an overwhelming task to be done. And again, that's just me observation from the outside. Again, it would appear that, and again, this is just a recommendation, that you would set up a work session prior to the board meeting, to where you as board members would then have an opportunity at that point in time to go through all the letters of interest, go through the resumes, and then at the open meeting, open it up for discussion and the interviews and whatnot. And again, that's just, a recommendation. But so again, thank you.
Mr. Cordova?
I have a comment. I like that idea. If we were to actually meet like anywhere from an hour to at least half an hour, or depending on the number of applicants, we could meet before that, actually open the meeting up. I don't know if it needs to be a work session, but we could just, probably not a bad idea, open it up for a work session for that amount of time. Either if there's not that many applicants, half an hour. If there are a few more applicants, then maybe an hour. We'll have that as a quiet time for us to take a look, and public can be here, but we're not going to engage in any conversation about the applications until we go through the process in the open meeting. But I think that's a very good idea. And we can, if there's any questions, we can get clarification from the administration. For instance, if we know of an applicant that doesn't live within the school district and yet they use an address that they're no longer there, we might be able to ask that kind of question during that work session. But other than that, nothing else.
Well, that was one of the things that I was going to suggest, is that maybe we need to meet, instead of 5 o'clock, we could meet at 4:30 to go through that process before then. And there again, I guess depending on the number of applicants that we get, do we need to go an hour earlier, or do we need to just a half hour, but then call it a work session before the regular meeting?
I would recommend an hour, because we don't know how many applications we're going to have.
Yeah.
We need to get the agenda done in advance. So my recommendation would be to start at 4 o'clock, make sure there's enough time.
Okay. You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I move.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Murillo. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion
Sure.
carries.
Thanks. Thanks for the
Mr.
suggestion,
President,
George.
I think there's still a motion on the floor referencing the rank order. Mr. Guadiana made the motion. I don't have a second written down. I'm not sure if I missed that.
I don't know either.
I think a motion was made, and then you went to hear
Discussion,
something from the
yes.
public.
Yes, yes. Motion by Mr. Guadiana. Do I hear a second on the ranking of the candidate? Do you hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Murillo.
I've got a question on that one. It was stated a little while ago, say that what the process, if I understand it correctly, you're going to have candidate number one, and somebody's going to make a motion, and somebody's going to second it, and then you're going to vote on that. If that person is 2-2, you go to the next one, and if that person is 2-2, you go to the next one, and if that person is 2-2, se acabó, ¿verdad?
Yes, I think so.
And then
But when they come up to give their comments, we still don't vote on them until the voting.
Till everybody is done, yeah.
Yes.
But still, so there's no reason, what's the reason of ranking them, if that's the case?
The only thing I think that they wanted was if they don't pass the background check, and that's when we go to the next one. I think, I don't know, am I understanding it wrong or what?
I don't think the chances are very high that they don't pass the background check. But
No,
so,
I don't either. I
but
think you got people from the community that are involved in some kind of business themselves. They maybe, what happens if that person has been fingerprinted already for his job? Do they have to be fingerprinted again for the board?
yes. Yes,
They would need to be.
They would need to be?
yes.
Okay.
But the reason for the ranking would be that if that person does fail, we'd have, and the only real consideration is that we have the 45 days, and if we didn't have the 45 days, say we start again, but we don't have enough time to repeat it. So it's just a safety net to make sure that we make the appointment. And even then, we may not have more than one person to get 3 votes, and then there would be no other applicant.
Because the next scheduled board meeting after Mondays on the 24th would be February 14th. And again, if my calculations are correct, the 45 days is February 14th.
To help out with the fingerprinting, so it's not hindering anybody or slowing it down, I can actually hopefully call the police department and see if we can, if you guys are going to appoint someone on the 24th, I can ask them if we can get someone fingerprinted on the 25th, and I can bring the information to that candidate that night and walk them through it. And that way we already have a slot hopefully for them for the 25th if the police department has it. That way it's not hindering or slowing down your process. Will that work for you guys? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Okay. The only other question that I have is, okay, now we need to wait till the fingerprint background check comes back in. Then our next meeting is when we appoint that person, or do we appoint him on the 24th?
I think that we stated it, that person would be appointed contingent on the passing of the background check. So once the person passes the background check, they would be the person we've selected.
Okay, so then we need to make sure that the judge will be here at that meeting so he can take the oath of office.
On the 24th?
No, because it would be, we could appoint them, but not, it would be contingent, like Mr. Guadiana says, for the next meeting.
Oh,
because he can't
Oh,
take the, he
got it.
can't take the oath of office until he passes
Okay,
the
you
background
got
check.
it. So then it would be February 14th.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay? Then we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay. And I think that's all the action items.
Well, that's true, but I had a comment about the paragraph that's after the adjournment. If this is not stated in our policy, we have a policy that lists an agenda, then it's not an appropriate restriction on anybody. If we're going to change the process for public comment, we need to go back to the policy and start there. But we can't unilaterally make changes and require people to go through certain hoops to make public comment unless they're given in policy.
The only thing is that I believe that there is one that you need to allow. If you're going to speak on something at the board meeting, you need to submit it in writing to the school main office before the board meeting.
I'll look at the policy, but to my recollection, that doesn't exist.
Unless it's general public input, right? And they can speak during that time. They don't have to be on the, they don't have
Correct.
to submit it in advance.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Any other thing on the process? Motion to adjourn.
So move.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, George.
Good night.